So a friend of mine from middle school reached out to me and sat me down, asked me a bunch of weird questions, and told me she did asset building. But this is the recruiting process of an MLM, how and why they do what they do, why they're so deceptive about it, why they don't give you a lot of information, and why they take you through this qualification process. Thank you for joining me. If you're new here, I'm Autumn, and I've been brainwashed in an MLM about 10 years ago. How do I know this? Because I was in an MLM for 5 years. And for 5 years after that, I truly thought it was me and I didn't work because of me. And I thought it was a legitimate business model that anyone can make work, but for some reason just didn't work for me. Until my eyes were open to the reality of the MLM business model and the brainwashing cult-like tactics that some of them really do use. Because of my own personal experience in Amway and Worldwide Group as the training organization, I experienced a lot of these brainwashing tactics. And I have a whole video on the BITE model. This is a cult expert, Dr. Stephen Hassan, who developed this model to show people how cults control their members, and I walk you through each example as to why and how this fit that organization. But today, I'm going to talk about the recruiting process. So yes, my friend from way back in middle school approached me at when I was 28 years old. So we hadn't talked for over a decade. And when we met for lunch to reconnect, she asked me a bunch of weird questions that I didn't quite get why she asked me. And then she told me her and her husband do asset building. And when I asked her, what was that? Because I was definitely looking at that time for some way to make some income, and I had never heard that before. And instead of her telling me what that actually meant, she said, I specifically remember, a lot of people don't know what asset building is. But I found a couple that retired in their 20s, and now they're teaching me how to do what they did. Ding, ding, ding. So if you ever hear this, maybe it's a couple that retired in their 20s, maybe it's a couple that walked away from their job, that gained financial freedom, that's mentoring them, yada, 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 that should ring some flags. Red flag alert. But I had no idea. Did not know what I did not know. Never heard of multi-level marketing before. And plus, I thought it was asset building. And so she didn't elaborate. I guess I didn't pass her qualifying questions because they were weird and I didn't understand them. So we moved on with our lives. I went and I Googled asset building. What is this thing? I could not find anything. Sure, I found some things on assets and maybe like real estate, but she didn't say that she did that because I did ask her that as well. Was this real estate? No, it's not real estate, but I know some people think that it might be, but still, no answers. So I finally reached back out to her and said, what is asset building? How can I learn more about it? So what she said was, actually, I have a book you can read. So I borrowed her book and thought it was revolutionary. Thought I had never heard of this business model before. It was all about network marketing, and it was written by Robert Kiyosaki, The Business of the 21st Century. I went back to her. She asked me, what did you think of the book? I told her it was revolutionary. And so she said, awesome, watch this video. So I watched this video, didn't make a whole lot of sense. At the time, I didn't know this, but it was from my up line, way up there. They call them diamond levels. It was like everybody's goal. They really changed everybody's dream to become this diamond level. And he did what, of course, we now know as the board plan, which I didn't know what that was, right? But where he talks about the plan, the business plan. And from what I remember from that first video was that it did make sense in the way they explained it to buy from your own store, buy the products from your own store because that is yours now. You're the business owner. So you buy from yourself because why would you buy from another store if you own this store? And to me, that made sense. And then you go and you find a few people to do the same thing, and you just teach them how to do the same thing. That was basically the gist of it. To me, it made sense. Sounded great. Didn't know what I didn't know, of course. Little caveat, you're not the business owner. You literally work for them for free, by the way. You're a sales rep for these companies, then you work for free. You might have a little bit of commission on the products, but the real money is in recruiting. And they don't tell you that either. And they're not honest about that upfront either. And I remember at this time, it was like they knew a lot of people didn't like selling products. I didn't love that idea, but I never once realized that I was actually selling products until I got the starter kit, the product kit right in front of me. That's when I realized, what did I just do? I did not want to sell products. But of course, and when I first joined, they really told us, you don't have to sell products. You just sell a little bit here and there to your mom, your friend, your aunt, whatever. But the real money is you go out and you find people and you teach people to buy from their own store. That was what they told me. And apparently that is the FTC really cracked down on that, because as I was in there for the 5 years, that language changed a lot. And it actually became not okay to say that because it's a scam. But anyways, that's where I was when I started. And little did I know, they were taking me through this qualification process of book after video of finally meeting with my sponsors and signing me up for the business, in which they a couple of times would go over my dreams, right? What are your dreams? They did a budget session to show me, oh, you don't make any money and you're actually going in the red. I was like, yep, thank you. I know. So there was all of that. They really painted the picture of what I could accomplish with this business. And all I have to do is buy from my own store, right? And teach other people to do the same thing. That's it. And I told them I don't have a lot of time. And they said, you only need a couple hours a week. Total lie. I said, fine, you only need a couple hours a week. Fun fact, I remember specifically saying, what is the business model? And he told me, which sounded very salesy, and it was, he told me it's not about the what, it's about the who you're involved with, and your mentorship, and mentorship is the important and thing. All that was laying the groundwork for this idea that you have mentors and you do basically whatever they tell you to do. I never fully fell into that, thankfully, but a lot of people do. And it was very tempting to do everything that they asked you to do. No questions asked. Then they tell you through this whole process that in order to build a business, you must spend money to make money, and you got to invest in training, invest in the mentorship. And so that's a monthly charge for this, a monthly charge for that. And that in itself is its own scam, because that in itself is not from the company directly. That is from the training organization. So not only are you paying the company to join, plus paying for all the products that they don't really care if you sell or not because you already bought it, so who cares? They made their money. Then you're also paying the training organization for the tools, the trainings, the access to the different apps and the different audios. So in this process, they really talk to you about all of this. They really ask these questions to identify, are you the kind of person who's going to listen to them? Are you the kind of or are you the kind of person who goes and Googles and takes your advice from Google? They make you feel like that's a bad thing. They make you feel like you're not thinking correctly because you're not listening to the millionaire mentors. You're listening to Google and what everybody has to say about it. But in reality, they're trying to make sure you don't think critically for yourself, that you don't do your research on these companies and these organizations, because they don't want you to know the truth that 99% of people lose money in these companies. They don't want to tell you the truth that it's going to take all of your extra time to barely make it in this business. If you make it to the top 1%, you have to spend all of your extra time and you literally can't do anything else but the business. And even they promise you, you 2 to 5 year plan. They like to lump those together. 2 to 5 years, right? To make it sound like you could actually do this in 2 years, but they want to get 5 years for the liability reasons. But then it takes 10 to 13 years to still only make about $58,000 a year, but that's not including expenses. So you're not actually making any profit around that either. They don't tell you any of that, but that's just some people's experience, right? I never got to any high level. So back to the recruiting process. It's all about qualifying you to see if you will just not critically think, not do research, just listen to what they have to say and just follow what they want you to do. And to put in the work that they tell you to do, which is all the work all the time, and which is listening to audios and brainwashing yourself and listening to everything that they have to say so that you stay in no matter what, whether you're losing money or not. They developed these training systems to keep you in even when you're losing money month after month, year after year. Because how else do they make money? They don't. If you don't stay in, they don't. But then, of course, they will position it differently. They will position it as if you should be the one that has this great thing and you're offering it to people. And if they say no, that's their loss. Everyone must know because this is the good news. So you must tell everybody you possibly can. And if they say no, they're missing out. They're in the wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have the dream. And if you quit at this business, you just gave up on your dream. This is what they would tell you over and over. Then I signed up, right? I got the starter kit, got all the membership for the tools, the books, the things. They have their own book list that you read. They have their own audios that you're supposed to listen to every day. I never understood that either. But it was because they wanted you to keep it in front of your mind all the time. Feel that urgency, feel that anxiety so that you actually go out and do something with the business so that you actually stay in, feel like you're doing stuff so that you put your money into the business so they can get paid. That's what it is. Now, not saying these reps think like that. I certainly believe my personal sponsors were trying to help people, did try to do good and did try to help. But they were also brainwashed by the same system. So they're just teaching this stuff over and over to everyone else that comes in. So then as the years evolved, I was in there for 5 years. They'd never really sit you down and be like, hey guys, we're changing things because the FTC is cracking down on us because it looks like we're a scam because of this and that and the other. No, they just subtly change and teach you a different way over and over. So that's fun. So the process when I first joined was literally just tell anybody anything. First of all, they really wanted everybody to stay off social media. So they would perpetuate this groupthink of social media is bad. It's all negative. Only negative people are there. So just get off of it. Just stay off of it. Don't be like the other MLM companies that are all online and they're all trying to post online all the time. We don't do that. And it was praised and highly edified that if you were off social media, you would be highly praised for that. So instead, they taught you to go to in person to everyone and anyone you can meet. So this means at all times, you're a walking business. You're a walking store. You talk to everybody that you possibly can about the business. So they would tell you this. You don't want to be weird about it. So you would start conversations with everybody you possibly could. And if those people seem like they want to have a conversation, you keep going with it. If someone shuts you down, move on to the next person. But the people that act like they want to have conversations, you have the conversation, but you're always thinking about how can you turn it back to the business? What question can I ask? How can I get the conversation to how I can, what they would call drop the message, which is tell them about the business, but subtly, right? Not actually tell them about the business, but just tell them what you're doing, make it look really enticing and not true because you're not making any money, but your mentor's making all kinds of money, or so they say. So you're supposed to tell people that they retired in their 20s, right? Or later on, they became financially independent in their 20s. And so that's going to entice people to want to know more. So you're always thinking about this. Every conversation you're trying to weave this into. And then they would teach that there were 3 kinds of responses to this. There's either the red light, which they would say, and this makes me mad now, they would say are people that seem like nobody's home, like when you drop the message and they just don't respond at all. And it's probably because it's weird. They would also say the yellow light people that might be somewhat like, that's awesome. They don't really ask you much more. They just kind of comment. And so with those people, you got to find a way to ask them a question, see if they are looking. Well, what about you? Are you looking to become financially independent? You want to keep it on that topic so that way you can open the door to potentially introducing them to your mentors. But they can't take everybody because they're busy people, right? But maybe I could do you a favor, even though you're a stranger we just met. But maybe I can do you this favor to potentially recruit you into my business. You didn't say that, but I mean, offer this amazing opportunity to you because I have bestowed this gift upon you. Then there was the green light people who might ask you questions. Wow, that sounds awesome. What did they do? They ask you more about it. But then, of course, if they ask you more about it, you don't tell them, well, they joined Amway and that's what they do. Yeah, no, you don't do that. You got to be really subtle about it. You got to be really secretive and bring it back to, well, since you're looking, I might be able to introduce you to them. I don't know if they're able to take people on right now under their wing, but if you're serious about pursuing mentorship or financial freedom, I could reach out to them and see if that's something that you're looking for. You don't want to say interested in, if that's something that you're looking for. Yeah. So it's all about posturing and how you have this gift to offer. And if they reject it, that's on them. You have a favor. You're doing them a favor. No, you're trying to recruit them into your business. You need people to make money at it, but you don't want them to know that. So you got to put on this facade, but that's not what they want you to think. So you've got to think of it as a gift. You're giving people a gift. You're offering this mentorship that they may or may not offer, which also isn't true. They would take anyone into the business because that's how they make money. Then from there, you would try to get their contact information, right? Whether if they were a yellow light or a green light, you would try to be like, I might reach out to them. I'll give you a call if they get back to me in a couple of days. What's a good time to reach you? So then a couple of days passes by, and meanwhile, you're keeping track of all of this. You're marking in your calendar. They have this whole structure of like, wait 2 days, call, leave a voicemail, wait 2 more days, call, don't leave a voicemail, wait another 2 days and leave a text message, and then you're done if they don't respond, whatever. Yeah. So you're keeping track. You have a CRM, and actually they didn't teach you that, but you keep track. Nevertheless, 2 days later, you call them. You hope they answer. Most likely they don't because they don't tell you how hard this is. I'm going to go through the numbers here in just a second, but it is crazy. But you hope that they pick up. If they pick up, you try to schedule a meeting and you say, hey, good news. I did get a hold of my mentor. They are willing to work with people. Imagine that. So let's set up a meeting. They just had some questions for you to see if this would really be a good fit or not. So then you schedule a time. If they show up, you don't confirm. You got to posture yourself too, right? So you got to posture and be like, hey, I'm taking the time out of my day for this. And their time, my mentor's time, they're taking time. So I really need to know that you're going to show up at this day, this time. And that was to help stop the no-shows, which you still got no-shows. So let's say they do show up. You meet with them, or maybe you bring your mentors if they're in town or they're online or whatever. In my case, I was out of town from my mentors. So a lot of times I had to do the initial meeting first. At the same time, they're trying to teach you how to do this all yourself. So when you just start out, your mentors come in, they do all the meetings for you, and you are supposed to learn how they do it, and then you go and then do it yourself. But initially they're coming in, they're asking all these, qualifying questions. Then they give them the book, and then they come back, and then you're scheduling a second meeting to go over the book, what they took from it. Did they read it? Most people drop off there too. But let's say they do actually come to a second meeting. They've read the book, and then you go over the business plan with them, and then you try to invite them into a live meeting. So they would always have these live board meetings in somebody's house to hear the same brainwashing to really get people to believe in the dream, believe that this can work for them. So that way you can then recruit them into your business. And so after that, you sit down again with them, ask them questions, they no-show you. Or then that's when you would sign them up into the business. And then they stop working and then they quit after a few days. Like, they don't tell you how hard that business model is, and they don't care. As long as you're in there putting money into it, that's all they care about. I shouldn't say that. That's assumptive. That's all the company. That's all that matters to the company, is that they're making money, right? So the amount of people that you have to talk to, they would always tell you it's about 2 out of 10 people that you sit down with and talk to and do what they called it, the meet and greet 1, where you're asking them all these questions and then you give them the book after that. The amount of people that sit down for that, so let's say 10 people, they say that it'll average out to where you sponsor about 2 of those people. I never saw that. So I can't speak to if that's true or not. They say that's the average. So you can imagine getting 10 people to sit down on that first meeting, not to mention you had to have the conversation with them where you actually had the time to drop the message, where you actually got their number, not to mention they had to be somebody who actually wanted to have a conversation in that moment, or actually could have a conversation, not to mention they had to be one of the people that you found that day. So think of how many people you have to actually talk to. And after work, you're going out to store after store to try to talk to as many people as you can, because not everybody wants to talk. Not every conversation goes that route. Not everyone you finally do drop the message to responds well. And so not everybody gives you their number, and not everybody answers, and not everybody sits down with you. Not everybody shows up. Not everybody shows up to the second one or the third one, and then not everybody signs up. So that is how hard and difficult that process is. And so you can see how they really have to brainwash you to keep you in, to keep you motivated, to keep you going. Just keep doing it. Do it, do it, do it. Read more, listen to more audios, go out and talk to more people, and it will happen. And that is the recruiting process of the MLMs. Now, a lot of the other MLMs use online. They do this through social media. That's why they're reaching out to you. Some are unashamed about it. Some will tell you the companies, some will be sneaky, some will be super sneaky. Like, even give the names of the stores different names and have different landing pages for every single rep. Super sneaky. Some will say it's not a multi-level marketing company, it's direct sales, or it's a direct, or it's a network marketing company, or social selling. All the same. All the same. They all have different structures, different plans, different compensation plans that are all really complicated, and that's for a reason. They're also, the reps don't really know what they're getting into. So what I wish someone had told me about this, I wish I had known to look up what the network marketing and multi-level marketing company truly was and what that meant. I wish they were upfront and honest about the amount of work you have to put in for the very little results. They'll tell you when you're in that it takes 10 units of effort to see 1 unit of result, but over time that will change to where you just put 1 unit of effort and see 10 units of result. And they just keep people in there believing that this can happen for them. Meanwhile, they are just working and working and working and burning out and getting brainwashed. And so now you know what to look out for. Now you know if someone comes up to you, what that means. And if that was you and you've done this before, reach out to me. I'd love to hear more about your story. There's no shame. These reps truly do mean well. I think a lot of them really do think that they have something great and that they are really giving people hope in building financial freedom. They don't realize the actual brainwashing and the actual structure is not in favor of the recruits. They truly are taught the opposite, and so they truly believe that. And because it truly does seem like these people are really helping, that they can continue bringing more people in.